Hi you guys, this is Nicole from My Carolina Garden. I garden in Zone 8B in southeastern North Carolina, so I am at the very bottom of our state. I wanted to show you around my southern garden today, and this morning I have to say is glorious. The sun is just beginning to rise, and last night and the night before our temperatures dipped to about 68 degrees. That's right, 68 degrees. This is a huge treat for us here in the South because, first of all, our temperatures don't really dip in the evenings much during the summertime at all, but hitting the 60s, we haven't seen those temperatures in months. So I am feeling so good, and it's giving me a little taste of cooler weather in which I can work without sweating and all of that kind of stuff. So it's making me really look forward to the things that are upcoming in my garden. But for now, let's tour all the things I have happening in my southern garden. Something that is normally thriving in my garden are my hardy banana trees. But something we talked about recently as we had a tropical storm come through is the leaves or fronds, whatever you call them, on the hardy banana trees actually shred in high wind. So you can see the difference between this leaf here that's shredded and this new leaf here that looks pretty darn close to perfect. What happens though after the leaves shred like that, but they end up just dying. So this brown, they go from yellow to brown. Now what happens is they have to be clipped off. The good part is that during their growing season, which is now, they shoot up their new leaves quite frequently and the trees will get plentiful again. But I do need to cut back some of those dead ones because, well, they look kind of ugly and they're not helping the tree to be there anyway. So the hardy banana tree is hardy to zone 4. So that is not something that I just have in my southern garden, but a lot of people get to enjoy these guys. So this is definitely one of my favorite features in my southern garden. Now let me show you what it looks like when you do cut off the fronds. I can take this frond and just kind of peel it back from off of the trunk. And when I clip it, I just want you to take note of how juicy the fronds are. They're full of a lot of water. Just keep that in mind when you're clipping your fronds back. It's going to be drippy and is probably going to get you a little wet. The sun is really just starting to peek up over the trees just behind my waterfall. So I'm trying to capture that light, but I'm not actually sure if you can see it because it looks like my camera wants to take some of that light away so it's not too bright behind me. But the sky is getting more colorful and the air temperature is still pretty comfortable. So I'll see if I can capture more colors, but we're going to keep going on around and looking. In my waterfall, I chose to put mandevilla. Mandevilla, which is like a viney, vibrant flower. It is a tropical style plant, so it doesn't have great cold hardiness. But you can overwinter these plants inside, which is a great bonus, and I have done that. I chose to use the mandevilla inside the waterfall because these plants stay manageable enough for me that I can dig them out of here to overwinter them inside. I will probably overwinter these in the greenhouse, and then anything that I have in pots, I may even bring inside my house. Last year, both the dipladenia and mandevilla, which are super similar and look almost identical, their growing style is just a little bit different. The mandevilla wants to grow up like a trellis or something, and the dipladenia kind of bushes out more. I did not provide a trellis to the mandevilla in here, and so they're kind of bushy and a little bit reaching, but they look gorgeous, and I still that's just what I did, and I have no regrets with it. The mandevilla or dipladenia for me are sort of like a replacement for a petunia. I don't grow petunias myself because they just don't last in my heat. Because of that, I choose something else that can be a pot filler or a draper in a pot, something that's going to keep giving me color that I don't have to worry so much about. These guys are drought tolerant and heat tolerant, and in fact, the one window box that I do have on the front of my house that gets afternoon sun, and sort of, I hate to say it, but no one really thinks about watering it, the Diplodenia draping out of it is stunning, and it stays stunning for the whole year. So at the waterfall over here, this is where I had the most color in my poolside garden so far for the whole season. The color was coming from a few different things, starting with the canna lilies over here that are have variegated leaves with the orange blooms. It just so happens that a lot of those blooms expired at the same time. I like to clip off those expired blooms and allow them to go again. So right now I'm just waiting for some more beauty to open up. But after that, I have a Luna Rose tropical or perennial hibiscus here. That never does so great for me in terms of a second flush. So it's actually looking pretty ratty over here and not providing much color at all. Another thing that's looking a little tired are my blanket flowers, which are still humongous and bushy. But this is the time of year when the blooms go to seed so quickly that it's very difficult for me to keep up with all of the deadheading that's required for them. It is going to keep blooming for me through November. My southern garden gets beaten down by the sun and by the heat, and everything starts to get tired and raggedy and then requires work and manual labor, which I don't really want to do when the temperatures are super high, but that's kind of where we're at right now. My oleander tree right here still has a lot of blooms on it, but I also have some pods on it as well. I did successfully clip 2 little stems of the oleander though and rooted them in soil, so I will be able to have 2 more oleander plants for me, which is great. My set of banana trees here, they're also looking pretty sad because a lot of these fronds had been sliced up. It does require some cutting back as well because we're looking to get everything back to its vibrant state so it can look great. Lucky for me, even though right now we're in August, so like we're in full-on summer, I'm going to be probably full-on summer still throughout the whole month of September. So these are the types of things that I need to combat going through. But once October comes, we're going to start to feel a lot of relief over here, and then I'm going to show you how glorious things are again. So more or less, starting from my blue flamingo as like a reference point, my succulent garden is basically over here. Starting with this, which is not a succulent, I just want to point it out, is a tropical hibiscus that I do keep as perennial in my garden, despite the fact that it really isn't supposed to be perennial in my zone 8. The problem with keeping it perennial is it takes a really, really long time to get its blooms out. So I've had maybe 2 or 3 flowers so far this year. I have some buds on it, but like I said, it really takes its time coming out. Now, this right here, this is the Pineapple Express Mangave. First time I've had this, but I put it in the ground, a few weeks ago, I guess, and it looks great. This Kalanchoe, I think that's what it's called, I hope that's what it's called, is also looking awesome in its pot. Now I say that because these guys are looking fabulous, but here in the actual succulent garden in the ground, this direction, I lost a lot of hens and chicks this year. And here's what happened. Hens and chicks have always been something that have grown easily for me in my garden, but we got a treacherous amount of rain over a period of about 3 weeks after being in a drought for a long time this year. I think they just held way too much water over in this area. Everything basically just rotted. So we got a lot of black and a lot of hens and chicks that need to be replaced in here. I will probably build up this area more so it's higher so the drainage is better. But there's nothing really that you can do to beat Mother Nature when it comes down with this massive rain and storms and all the things that you have to deal with. So unfortunately, my hens and chicks did take a beating, and that is very sad for me. I love it when you can see the rays of sun coming through the clouds like that. So here are some more things that are just not looking their very best. This is another perennial hibiscus or a hardy hibiscus, and this is the Copper King. With the perennial hibiscus, these blooms bloom for a day and then they close up and then new blooms would typically start. Again, this is kind of round 2 for this plant, but round 2 really is not plentiful for this particular one. My pool just turned on and startled me. So the flowers are the big, huge, beautiful ones, but we're just not having the best show over here. I do have some purple hearts that are in the ground right here. They do magnificently for me, both in pots and in the ground. And then I have the Dragon's Breath Celosia potted up in this aqua blue pot over here. So at least that gives me a really nice pop of color right now. The foliage is so bright and I really need and want more dynamic color over here. So this will give me things to think about for next year. Maybe I need to add in some more garden decor or more colorful pots, things like that that can keep looking strong and adding a lot into the garden when we're feeling so hot and tired. When we look at my secret garden pathway, and again, you can see how huge things have gotten over the course of the growing season. You can also see more of the storm damage that we had from the tropical storm. Like my jumbo elephant ears over here got pretty shredded up just from the wind blowing so hard and it hitting other plant stems and different things like that, folding up on itself, etc. So leaves like this are going to have to be clipped, and it's sad because they are so big and glorious over here, and then you have to cut back the ones that are scraggly. As we come this way though, you see a combination of things. I have canna lilies in pots and in the ground and all of that sort of thing. One of the things I had mentioned previously was that I've had the worms on my canna lilies, eating all of my leaves and doing tons of damage. That is something else you need to look out for and have to clip. So it's not storm or wind damage, but instead it's bug damage. So lots of things being clipped back and taken care of at this stage of the summer. Coming this way though, something that I'm still in love with are my caladiums. I'm gonna take you down here to show you exactly what these caladiums are looking like at this time of the year. Probably should have cut this banana leaf back before I sat here, but I have 3 different caladiums under the banana trees here. They're a little more protected in the shade, and then I also have 3 more right behind my waterfall, which is in this direction, that are less protected. All 6 plants are doing beautifully. Now what I would like to say is earlier this week we went to Charleston, South Carolina, and the amount of caladiums in the window boxes there in the beautiful French Quarter City District of Charleston was so, oh my gosh, it was wonderful and inspiring. I love Charleston anyway, but if you haven't been there to see the gorgeous window boxes, oh my gosh, they seriously are motivational for me. They're inspirational for me. I love taking pictures of them and getting ideas as to things that I could do myself, and talk about southern gardening. And it was just magnificent. So it almost renewed my love for my caladiums here. And a lot of caladiums now you can find these days are not just made for shade. So they can actually tolerate sun, which is great because that makes them so much more versatile. I also want to show you my darkly colored elephant ears that are right along this side. They have been quite a struggle for me to grow. They don't get huge. They just don't get huge, but I'll show you what I do have. Okay, so walking toward my caladiums. This is just a pot here of dianthus, and I have some ornamental peppers in there to add that purple. And then right here is what I was saying. I had a little bit more dipladenia, and these are the darkly colored elephant ears. But as I said, they just don't get huge for me, and I see other people having much more success with them, and they are on irrigation, but they seem to be very, very sensitive in my garden. So as we head more in this direction, I just wanted to show you this is the canna lily with the orange bloom on it. And this is another one that has not opened up yet. So I am, as I said, still having buds, and they're going to get new blooms on them as well. And then this is what the icky expired blooms look like, which I do snip off. Now there are seeds inside, like these little ballies here on the canna lily. There are seeds in there that you can harvest if you want to grow more canna lilies with the seeds. That's not something that I do. That's one way that canna lilies can grow, but another way is like they just spread underground with their rhizome roots. I divide up the rhizome roots and I separate the canna lilies and put them in other parts of my landscape. And then in doing that, I end up with big bunches of canna lilies everywhere. Now, as you can see, this set of elephant ears, which is ginormous and just came as a division from the elephant ears at the start of the pathway, they're so big that they have taken over my blue boardwalk. Again, this is something I will remember for next year. Maybe I don't want to put these here and I'll move them to a different area, I'm not sure. But all of this is keeping in mind that none of this blue boardwalk or this flower garden here on the backside of my pool and waterfall even existed before the spring of this year. I literally had a sod cutter, rented a sod cutter in April to clear the sod off of this part of my land so I can make this garden. So when I think about that and put the growth into that kind of perspective, the size of the elephant ears crossing over my pathway doesn't bother me at all, because it makes me feel pretty darn proud. So a southern garden on the East Coast does mean storms, potential for hurricanes and tropical storms, as we've already said. Another thing that you can expect in a southern garden are red fire ants. So this right here is a mound of fire ants, and that's what they do. They make their homes into these huge mounds. So almost always you can see the mounds and attempt to avoid them or attempt to remove the mounds. Especially when it rains, you notice that the fire ants need to migrate to different areas because their home is getting washed out or whatever it is. And see, now I'm paranoid and looking for them crawling on me. And so this mound has popped up after that tremendous amount of rain that we had, like I said, over the last few weeks. So fire ants are awful. They will sting you very badly, and I don't like it at all. So over here is my next set of 3 caladiums. These are the ones that are less protected from the sun, and they're still looking amazing. I wasn't exactly sure how tolerant they were going to be of all the kind of sun and heat that I get here, but they're looking great. And then right in front of them is just the lemon coral sedum, which also grows great for me. So the color and the pop of that lime green, that just does really, really well for me here. I do try to put it in some places where I want a ground cover, and anyway, it works out really well for me. So lemon coral sedum, caladiums, and then just a little aside really, I want to point out this snake plant here. Gosh, I had only bought one snake plant, I don't know, a few years ago. I've divided that baby up like 1,000 times. And so this is just one of those divisions that I put in a pot. I leave my snake plants outside in the summer, you know, in the warmer weather. And I don't seem to have any problem with it, you know, burning or not being able to tolerate the sun, which is amazing to me because I don't think it's really supposed to just be sitting in the sun. I think it wants a little bit more, maybe partial or that sort of thing. But I have wonderful success, and this guy has grown and added pups into its pot, and it continues to do that right now. You can see other little tiny ones starting to pop up. So that's just something to note, that if you do like snake plants and you want to put them into arrangements or something to accent your outdoor garden in the warmer weather climate, why not? A pot that I love is this cordyline in the middle with its vibrant, oh my gosh, hot pink, whatever you want to call it, colored leaves that are in here, and the purple heart. I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. This pot has existed for me, I think it's been 5 years now. So I do just bring this pot indoors and everything comes back gorgeously. This purple heart, which looks like a ball growing all the way around this flower pot, is amazing. And you can just, if pieces of it break off, you can reroot those pieces. If anything needs to be clipped off, it grows back quite easily. So the purple heart is amazing and the cordyline is fabulous. Now, I didn't until this year keep any cordyline actually in my ground, this particular style that's hot pink. But now some people have told me that I can do that. So I am adding it into my landscape very soon, and we'll see how it does and if it comes back for me beautifully next year. And just to finish up the poolside gardens, this is another perennial hibiscus, as I know you can tell. This is called Starry Starry Night. Now this one this is its second flush. You can't tell now, it probably doesn't look all that plentiful. Yesterday it had a lot more blooms that, you know, as I said, they last for a day and then it's time for them to go. But I have plenty of more buds, still a number of flowers on here, and so this one is my only one out of all of my perennial hibiscus that comes back for a second flush as great as the first one. I see a worm or caterpillar or whatever it is on my canna lily right here. It's on the outside. It hasn't tucked itself into a folded leaf yet. That aggravates me. He's got to get off of there. My canna lilies are suffering so badly this year. I've not had this problem before. So that is this red variegated canna, which is my favorite. None of my cannas are immune from these stupid worms. So I have this variegated one right here, and then this is called a Happy Cleo canna, and its flower petals are multicolored. So I have both yellow and orange on there, and I love that as well. So the cannas come in so many different varieties, so many different colors, both with the leaf variegation or the leaf color, and then the flower color as well. If I didn't already say that before, I think cannas are mainly cold tolerant to about zone 7, or they could be zone 8, but they are perennial here for me in zone 8B. Now that the sun is fully up, it's not really doing me any favors as it's shining, so I can't even look at the camera, but this is my rock garden over here, which again, as I'm saying, is looking tired. I wanted to point it out though, because my southern garden is not only the tropical plants by the pool. I have coneflowers, I have hosta, I have dianthus. This is the creeping moss phlox that is now turning brown, which is something that happens normally for me. It looked glorious in early spring, but I have purple balloon flowers. I have autumn joy sedum. Lots of things in this garden, but everything is just kind of only looking okay. Again, this makes you take a look at what you have and how things perform throughout the year so that you can make different choices perhaps moving forward. I think I need more boulders in here. More rocks would make me really happy, and then I don't have to worry about them dying or looking scraggly at all. So yes, this is a time of year where I have to do a lot of deadheading and cutting back to make things flourish some more. These are pink dahlias, which were looking real scraggly, but I cut all of those expired blooms off, and now I have tons of new buds on them. That being the case, oh my gosh, I feel so relieved, because I love dahlias and I hate seeing things look like they're suffering. And then of course, more blanket flowers, the beautiful wisteria up behind me over here. It's not blooming now, but the leaves still add some interest for my garden, which is great. This is the Sunny Border Blue Speedwell, which I have been cutting some blooms back as the little purple petals fall off of there. But the pollinators are still happy with it, so I don't like to clip the whole thing down at the same time. Nevertheless, here we go with it getting scraggly. Coming in this direction, the cascading sedum still looks pretty good despite all the rain that we've had. Dianthus is looking a little bit sad and needs a little bit more deadheading. And this is the loosestrife, which was blooming gloriously last month, but as those petals came off, I had to do some deadheading, and I'll have to do a little bit more clipping as well, because as you can see, a lot of petals are gone off of these long stems, so I'll just clip back those. So looking at my rock garden a little bit more as a whole in this type of picture, you can see, yes, a lot of green, but also a lot of yellow between the sunshine ligustrum shrub in the back and then the black-eyed Susans. I really feel like I need more pops. I would love to have some more pink or some more magenta or something else that really stands out. When the pink dahlias get more blooms on them, that's gonna work just fine. So it's not that I wanna really remove anything from this garden, but instead I wanna see how I can add some more things. Now this flower bed is directly across the yard from the rock garden, and I had a similar problem in here where I was just lacking color. And that's where this Rudbeckia, Sunbeckia came into play, where I needed to add a pop of something in here. That has worked out wonderfully, but as I look at the garden as a whole, my crepe myrtle's great. The blooms are pretty much up high, which is not ideal, but when you look at the full picture, it still works. But I'm lacking color coming this direction. So this is something else that I want to work on for the summer. You see, this is what happens though. Summers here are hot. The plants are suffering. I don't want to work out in the heat, but yet this is the time when I'm lacking a lot. So we'll have to figure out that timetable, but I'll tell you what, if we get some more temperatures in the 60s, even if I have to start working in the early morning, I will do that because it's worth it. Having my blue bench in here really provides color all throughout the year, which I love. So I think that's making me think more about what kind of decor, garden decor I have. But anyway, a couple of cute little pots, especially wanted to show you my little head planter that I just got that I love. So we just planted him up with some begonias and some of that cascading sedum. The Texas Red Star hibiscus that is probably about 8 or 9 feet tall at this point. We got a good amount of blooms on here and they are kind of all over. I can't go up and show you how tall it is because the sun is right there. But just below the hibiscus, I have the illusion dahlia. See, now this adds that kind of color that I'm looking for. I love that magenta. So we're gonna just end right here next to my gorgeous dipladenia that I had overwintered from last year. You know, a southern garden is quite tricky. We do have a long growing season, which means our plants and flowers need a lot of care for a lot of time in the year. And it is very challenging to get through these hot days and then extreme weather with no rain at all and then tons of rain and all of that kind of stuff. But gardening is a labor of love after all, and so I just wanted to show you what I had going on around here. I am really, as I said, with the cooler temperatures, feeling like, oh, I want more of it so I can be out in the garden and love on my plants even more. So we'll see what Mother Nature has in store for us. But until next time, happy planting.